Ah, finally awake. How do you feel, Mr. Pierce?
Fuller! Son of a bitch! I'll kill you!
No, I'm not even really with you. Well, to be perfectly precise, I am with you. But not in this cell.
What have you done to me?
Me? Nothing, really. See, it's one of the exquisite effects of this incredible creature.
Leviathan!
I see you already know about it. Well, shall we begin?
As we have currently the spookiest season of the year, I wanted to play something to get into the right mood. I liked and hated Call of Cthulhu: Dark Corners of the World. I was really intrigued by the story and the world that was offered there, the detective aspect of the game, playing in the 20s, that is all stuff that I really enjoy. So recently I bought The Sinking City and Call of Cthulhu. I started the latter one because it was shorter, and both had a quite mixed response anyway, so I couldn't really start with the better one. When I started this one, I was a bit confused. I was wondering, is it open world, is it linear, will there be any action? Well, it turns out it is a first-person detective game, and it's actually really a detective adventure, with Lovecraftian influence and light RPG elements. Play as Edward Pierce, a private investigator, who is supposed to investigate the mysterious death of Sarah Hawkins and her family in Darkwater. Soon he learns that things are not as they seem, and he uncovers the dark secret of the town. The graphics are nothing special here. To be quite honest, this is a really ugly game, especially the character models and environments, and animation. The environments also don't look that great, but characters really are the worst here. It's as if you were seeing Innsmouthers here. It looks actually more like a PS3 game, but even then it's quite sloppy for that, especially when you look at the animation. It's also pretty dark most of the time, which sometimes helps the mood and could potentially hide some of the uglier aspects of the game. But to be honest, it can take you out of the game. The same counts for the animation, which is even worse than some of the graphics here. Having people talk to you and flailing their arms around in an erratic manner really takes you sometimes out of the story. It just looks unfinished and buggy. In regard to the gameplay, you have here regular detective gameplay. It's nothing too special. You are finding clues, you are solving puzzles. There are often different approaches to progress through the story. A lot of dialogue options and decisions which will influence the story and the main character's mental state can be made. There are also light RPG elements, as mentioned before, most of which, like investigation, eloquence and strength, can be upgraded by character points, which you earn from completing tasks in the story. But medicine and occultism can only be upgraded by reading books. I was not able to upgrade all areas in my playthrough, and I assume you can play the game a second time to unlock everything and have a different outcome. Most of the gameplay consists out of talking and investigating, but there's also some stealth and chase sequences, when Edward is being chased by monsters. It's a nice change of pace from what I usually play. There's one chapter in which you can shoot around though, and it's not that great, just pointing your gun at crazies and one-hitting them. That's all, but overall I kind of enjoyed the gameplay. It was nothing too difficult and I usually found a solution quickly. But there was one spot in the game where I had to use a special dagger to stab something. There are a lot of daggers in that room, probably you get some kind of hint which one to use, but I missed it or forgot what I should use, so I just looked it up. Maybe it's just trial and error at this point in the game, but well, I don't know. That passage just wasn't that good. The story is the strongest part of the game. While it takes a couple of chapters to really take off, it gets pretty interesting once it does. It's never especially thrilling, but it kept my interest for the majority of the game. It's split into 14 pretty short chapters and you are visiting some locations several times. But it never gets boring. Detective stories set in Lovecraftian settings are always kind of interesting in games, and this here is no different. Maybe it's also the different gameplay which this type of game like Call of Cthulhu, Dark Corners of the Earth and probably The Sinking City have, which makes them so special. While the story is interesting, it's not really great. Actually, a lot of plot points and characters appear and feel like they were forgotten halfway through the game. There is a crime lord which we meet on 2 or 3 occasions, but we barely get to know her. Or an officer who dies early on and helps us, but at some point just disappears. Maybe it depends on the choices the player makes, and one could learn more about them when approaching the game differently. But I doubt it. The ending is also disappointing, probably all 4 of them. I saw only 2 endings, but none of them satisfied me. But I really appreciated the dialogue and the twists and turns which were made. I had fun with Call of Cthulhu, and as a budget title it's a good buy, especially if you're in the mood for horror, and probably even more if you are a Lovecraft fan. I enjoyed the different gameplay compared to what I usually play, and the emphasis on story. The visuals are pretty bad though, and the story, while interesting, could be better, and the conclusion is just meh. But you can replay the game, choose different dialogue options, upgrade your character in different ways and make different choices. It's also actually less buggy than Dark Corners of the Earth. At least here there wasn't a game-breaking bug which almost prevented me from finishing the game towards the end. While no masterpiece by any means, it was a lot of fun. And it didn't overstay its welcome. So Call of Cthulhu earns a strong 6 out of 10.